reaction to that press conference that we just heard. We're all questioning here on set, Robert, who made the decision to give a press conference before they actually got into business. But give me your quick reaction there.
Well, as scene setters go, I was disappointed. After all, it is a summit coming at a time when Russia is accelerating its aggression into the Middle East. Syria is one step. The next step is going to be trying to dominate Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, and to do that by virtue of being able to sell weapons and separately to sell nuclear power plants. The Middle East is going nuclear. That's not in our interest. It's important that the president engage on this issue and come home with clear understandings that the United States is going to be doing what we pledged to do for the past 70 years, and that's securing the region. We do that for a good reason. The key waterways of the world are right there in the Middle East. 40% of the globe commerce goes through Suez. All or most of the oil that goes to Asia and Europe goes through Hormuz. To turn over control and dominance of decision-making in that region to Russia is very much against our interests.
Yeah.
So we've got to be competitive, make clear that there are red lines that we're going to resist, and not look at this as some kind of a love match.
Did you say 40% of commerce goes through the Suez, Robert?
That's right.
40%. Mary Kissel from the Journal, your reaction to that.
Maria, I'm really struck at the similarity in approach between Trump and Obama here. Remember when Obama took office, he went over and they wanted the New START treaty, they wanted to do arms control deals, they wanted a better relationship. You heard similar language there out of Trump. Wouldn't it just be better if we could all get along, kumbaya? The problem with that is, as Robert has pointed out, Putin is an aggressor. He has occupied 3 different sovereign states, Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine. He has deployed nerve agents on British soil, his regime, rather. He has downed a Russian, a Malaysian airliner, a civilian airliner, killed more than almost 300 people in eastern Ukraine. He is accelerating his development of strategic nuclear weapons. He has violated the Ballistic Missile Treaty, the INF Treaty. So this is not someone who is walking into a meeting looking to do deals. He is an aggressor who is looking to take advantage of the United States. And Trump, I think, by setting the table this way, is saying, yeah, let's talk about all this aggression, instead of coming to the table and saying, look, I have leverage over you, and we will exert that leverage until you behave better.
I'm not sure what the thinking behind bringing up the World Cup as the first item on the agenda was there, Dagan.
Just to bring up the World Cup, and again, he used the word congratulate. Remember, there was the call that he had with President Putin where, according to reports, President Trump was cautioned, do not congratulate Putin on his recent election, quote, win, unquote. I put that in quotation marks for a reason. But there was an interesting story from Jonathan Swan at Axios over the weekend that the time that Putin actually enraged Donald Trump, and it was earlier this year during Putin's election campaign, Putin released a propaganda video that in the graphic it showed missiles raining down on Florida. And it was very clear it was Florida, the home of Mar-a-Lago, the Trump estate there. And President Trump, according to this report in Axios, was furious and actually brought it up in a phone call with Vladimir Putin. So again, we might not see anger here, and we might see even a carelessness in language. But again, President Trump does understand the threat.
And his policies have been stronger than Obama's. You have to give Trump that.
Yes.
Sanctioning Putin's inner circle, opening up our energy supplies,
expelling diplomats.
Well, I don't see that as a big deal.
How about
that
arms
really
to
hurt him.
Ukraine?
But yeah, Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine was a very, very big deal. So
airstrikes in Syria?
Well, that was sort of meaningless, and they should have been bigger. But look, you do have to separate the rhetoric from the reality here. Hearing those comments about the World Cup, you got to wonder, President Putin engaged in a huge amount of corruption over the building of the World Cup. That was about enriching his friends and cronies.
That's a great point.
But bringing up the World Cup, that's just an icebreaker, saying, you know, the Yankees didn't win last night.
So you think that was a strategy?
I don't hold that against him, but I'm wondering, what has the U.S. been doing, especially in the last year and a half? Why have we allowed the Russians to move into Egypt? Jordan, for crying out loud, survives because of our support. Why are we allowing the Russians to have an opening there?
Look at Israel. Look at Israel cozying up to Russia.
What about that, Robert McFarlane? You're hearing the conversation. Steve's wondering what the U.S. has been doing to stop all of this progress between Russia and the Mideast.
Well, it's terribly important that the president remember how vital this region of the world is for our interests. We want stability in the supply of energy throughout the world. It's in our interest. We want Japan, East Asia, Europe to be able to count reliably on Middle East oil. Russia's trying to achieve a position to dominate decision-making from Iran through control of Suez and Hormuz separately. He's already established a foothold in Syria. He's using two things to overcome this region politically. One of them is selling high-stakes, state-of-the-art weaponry, air defense especially. Secondly, to sell nuclear power plants. And once you control the supply of electricity to a country, you're going to dominate political decision-making in that country for 70 years.
Robert, where was the U.S.? I mean, Egypt is dependent on the U.S. Jordan is dependent on the U.S. What were we doing when Putin was making those deals?
Real
we
quick.
Were just
well, that's a
lunch.
very important point, Steve. A year ago, we had an opportunity to engage with President Sisi in Egypt on a very constructive agenda, and we didn't do it. We've still got an opportunity there, but it's going to take a lot of catch-up ball by the president to restore our ties with Egypt and avoid a Russian takeover.
Robert, thank you so much. We appreciate your insights. Very important conversation this morning. Thank you, Robert McFarlane.